Okay, hello everyone. So nice to see you all. I'm glad you're here. It's amazing. It's amazing that you come to these courses in online. It's a little hard, I know, sometimes to sit in front of your computer and stay put and focus when things are uncertain and maybe your routine is all shifted. So I rejoice that you are willing to put this time in to work on your heart. Amazing, amazing. And thank you. It's very inspiring for me to have so many people joining us. Just amazing. We have with over 350 people who have registered for this course, and they're either watching the videos or they're coming in the other session or they're here now. Just amazing, 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 and so beneficial to the world. So welcome. Thank you. I rejoice. So my name is Drolma, and I am actually American, although I live in India. So I live at Tushita, and I'm the resident teacher. So I teach a lot of classes here, and we have just, even though we can't have people here, we've started doing these online classes, and because the response has been so great, we've just continued them, and we have plans for just to continue for the rest of the season doing online courses regularly with either me or other visiting teachers. So, and it's because of so many students' interest and sponsorship that we've been able to continue to do this and stay open and still bring the Dharma to people. So thank you for being here. What else about me? So I'm a nun, that's why I'm dressed funny. I've been a nun for over 10 years, and before that I studied psychology, Western psychology, and practiced that for a lot of years. So my approach is often to bring the two together. So if you hear me talking a little bit about psychology, you'll know that's why I have a background in that, as well as study and practice in Buddhism. I will be the main teacher, but also I will be assisted by Felipe. So Felipe will be my background technical person, which is so nice to have the support. I don't have to worry about the technical aspects. There he is. And he also will be leading the meditation at the end of each class for 20 minutes. So do you want to introduce yourself, Felipe?
Sure, Venerable. Thank you. Well, I'm glad to see so many people, as you were mentioning, logged in, and I really hope that you'll benefit from the course, and I'll do my best to try to support Venerable Drolma in all the process and with your questions and the discussion groups. So I think it's really an exciting time. Every time we start a new course, I'm always very happy to see what's coming up. So thank you, Venerable, for choosing to teach another new course, and very happy to have everyone here. So yeah, let's have a good one.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about how the schedule of each class will go. So we'll start off with 15 minutes of meditation with our motivation and our meditation, just to settle our mind and get our minds oriented to the topic, and start to do some of this generating of these positive emotions. So that's what we're going to be focusing on a lot. And it's through strengthening these emotions, through getting familiar with them and all their aspects, how they feel in our body, what thoughts come to mind, that we can start to, in general, feel them more often. And the more often we feel them, it actually brings us joy. Feelings of love, wanting others to be happy, bring us happiness. Feelings of compassion, wanting others to be free from suffering, actually helps us be free from suffering. So that's what we'll be doing, is working on what's called this subject meditation, where our mind is really developing this sense of these emotions, these positive emotions. And then I'll teach for about a half hour, 35 minutes, something like that, just to give you more information about the process, and also introduce some of the techniques related to developing this expansive heart. So we all have this basic ability to love and care for others. Within Buddhism, what we try to do is grow that and deepen that and expand that, to be more prevalent in our lives, for that to be our basic orientation to the world and to others, is this sense of caring and this sense of love. And then also expanding it to include many, many, many beings, as many beings as possible, all the way up to the way the Buddhists do it. They don't discriminate people. They don't say, oh, this one deserves my love and this one doesn't. They don't do that. They love everyone all fully. So we'll talk about some of the ways to develop that. And then we'll be having a discussion section. So Felipe has the capacity with Zoom to break you into groups of, five. I think we're gonna do around 4 or 5 people. And it's really amazing to be able to connect with people. We have people registered from many different countries. I didn't count all of them, but at least like 15 or more. I'm not sure. But I think we have someone from Albania, and of course, Israel and India and the US and Australia and, Germany. And, it's just amazing the number of countries. We have South Africa, a couple people from South Africa. So please use that opportunity. Even though it's a little bit uncomfortable at first, meeting something new, meeting someone new, it's really a way to connect with people, especially if we're all sitting in front of our computers, oftentimes alone or with people that we see every day. And here we have this opportunity to talk and meet with new people, like-minded people. So please use that. Now, if you're really against that whole thing and you don't want to engage in the discussion, we're asking that you leave the meeting during the discussion and then come back later. Because if you stay in the meeting, but you don't participate, then we put you in a group and some people end up shortchanged because there's nobody to talk to, or, there are fewer people in the group. So that's what we're asking you to do. And then we'll do 10 minutes of question and answer. So you can put your questions, either raise your hand virtually. There's a little raise hand button, usually in either under your participants or in your chat, somewhere where it says raise hand. And if you raise your hand, then at that time, Felipe will call on you and unmute you, and then we can have a discussion about your question. Or you can write your question in the chat. And then after the question and answer section, we'll do 20 minutes of meditation, and that's what Felipe will lead. So also what we have as a helpful sort of guide is we have a folder. It's on the Google Drive, and you should have received the link to that when you registered. And in that Google Drive are some resources. So there's a resource page with links to articles and book recommendations if you're interested in reading more about the topic, and some video links. So you can take a look at that. Also in that folder, I've included my PowerPoint slides in the form of handouts. And those will be pretty close to what I'm using, but I often will, before each class, I may add or switch around those slides. So they won't be exactly accurate, but they'll be in general, the ones that I'm using. So feel free to download that, take a look at that while I'm teaching, while I'm not teaching. It's got room for notes if you want to print it, whatever you'd like to do with that. So that's helpful. A few technical things. The chat is closed, so you can't really chat to me during the class, and I can't handle it anyway. I can't read and teach at the same time. But you can chat to Felipe. So that registered Tushita is Felipe. So if you're having technical difficulties, feel free to talk to him, and he can help you out with that. Also, we're located in at the foothills of the Himalayas. And our internet service provider has been amazing. And India is amazing in this way, in the way that it has been able to keep our internet open and very, not be slow. I mean, it's been amazing. But sometimes things do happen, like weather. Like right now we're in the monsoon. So if we get kicked out of a meeting, like I freeze and then the meeting ends for some reason, or like Felipe disappears, then wait 15 minutes. So that's our window. We'll keep trying for at least 15 minutes to start again. But after 15 minutes, then we'll come back the next class. So don't just wait a short time. Wait 15 minutes, and we'll keep trying. Okay, I think that's it for technical stuff. Felipe, did I miss anything?
I don't think so, Venerable. I think we're set to go.
We're good? Okay. All right, great. So for this meditation, I want to teach it first so that you know what we're doing, and then we'll do it. So we're starting a little late, the meditation part, but that's okay. So the meditation is called Ceen, C-E-E-N, and I'll put up a slide to describe it in just a second, but it comes from Pema Chodron. So Pema Chodron taught this meditation technique in a teaching, a workshop that she did over the course of, I think, like 4 weekends. And it is published in an audiobook called Awakening Love. So it's actually, you can hear her teaching to this crowd of like a few hundred people, this whole technique, and then they're practicing it within the audiobook. And the title of the book, Awakening Love, and is the full title. It's got some other discovering or something. I don't know the rest of the title. It's on the resource page if you want to look it up and you want to listen to it. So what it involves is an understanding that each one of us has this capacity to love. We have the ability to feel love for others. And I'm sure that every one of you has experienced this deep caring for someone, whether it was someone who you fell in love with, or a pet that you care about, or a child that your child, or your parents, or your siblings, or a very close friend. In order for us to exist as human beings, to have been grown up to this point where we are all adults, or even, beyond the age of 5 or 6, if we had absolutely no love, if no one ever nurtured us and cared for us, we wouldn't be alive right now. So from His Holiness' point of view, he talks about this. This is the proof that the basis of us as human beings is love, is compassion. So this compassion, wishing ourselves and others not to suffer, that this is part of who we are and the basis of who we are. And so having had that experience, what we're going to do in this meditation is we're going to contact that and expand it. But first we have to get a sense of, what does it feel like? Where is it in my body that I feel this love? Because emotions, especially very powerful, deep emotions, have a physical component. They have a component of what we could describe as a warm heart. And we may feel it in our heart, we may feel it in our arms, or in our stomach, or behind our eyes where we think our thoughts are. In our eyes, sometimes we smile when we're feeling love and love and kindness for others. So getting in touch with, what is this experience for me? And then also the other aspect of emotions are our thoughts. So what are we thinking when we're having love for others? Sometimes it's as simple as, I love you, I care about you, I want you to be happy. So then we contact that experience, and then we encourage it. So we start to grow it through words. So you may be familiar with this practice from the Theravada tradition. So if you've practiced some of the Thai traditions, or the Burmese traditions, or Sri Lankan traditions, you know that this practice of encouraging, may you be happy, may you have everything that you need. So encouraging this feeling with words. So consciously bringing in these thoughts of, being free from suffering, having everything, being supported in so many ways. These are the words that we can use to encourage this experience. And then we expand it. So we notice how it starts to grow within us. So our minds become filled with that feeling of love. And those negative, if we have negative thoughts or some resistance to it, it actually starts to let those go. Those actually start to fade quite a bit because we are filling our minds with love and with compassion. Now so that's the sense of expanding it. And like I said, when you start to expand your feelings of love for others, it makes you feel good. It's just an aspect of our minds, of our brains, that when we tap into these to these circuits where wanting happiness for others and ourselves, and wanting ourselves and others to be free from suffering because of this deep caring, that it actually stimulates in our brains a sense of euphoria, a sense of peace, of love for the whole world. It's an experience as for us as humans that is pleasant. It's a nice feeling. So as we expand it, we start to get to that. So the N then comes from notice. So let's look at that so you can see that. So it's CEEN, meditation. We're developing this subjective experience, and we're going to do this with all four. Well, we'll do it with the first two, definitely, with loving kindness and compassion. I'll decide later when, probably joy too, but we'll see. Okay. So developing this subjective experience in us, we contact it, we encourage it, we expand it. Now, the noticing part is because we aren't Buddhas yet, we aren't fully enlightened yet, we don't have an limitless compassion and love yet. We will hit boundaries. We will hit edges. We will hit resistance. And this is totally normal. This is simply a sign of where we are in terms of encouraging, expanding, and developing this love. So we have to notice this. We have to become aware of when we sort of hit like an edge where we don't really want to go any farther. We sort of, it's sometimes it comes up as an experience of doubt, of like, wait, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe I don't like this. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe this is as much love as I can feel for this person. And sometimes it comes up as thoughts like, well, they never did this, or they acted that way, or, our doubts start coming up. Our thoughts of resistance start coming up. And we have to just notice those, like, oh, there's my edge. And we notice it with compassion for ourselves, with understanding, and we just be with it. So what is another aspect of this process of developing this subjective experience is that we are not forcing and we are not judging. We are simply being with where we are. And we're adding to it with these words. But when we hit sort of our walls, then we notice that with compassion, with understanding, with acceptance, and with presence, with awareness, with mindfulness of this is how far I can go. Especially when we start working with difficult people or people we don't know very well. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for us to expand love for someone that we barely know. Okay, so noticing that becomes the other aspect of the process of when my expansion stops, what is that? What's going on here? Where am I? What's happening here? And that's all. Oftentimes, through simply being with, through presence with, and accepting where we are, those walls melt. The resistance disappears. Not because we pushed it away, not because we forced it away, but because through awareness, because this is naturally who we are, we will become aware of it and it will disappear. It just fades. But even if it doesn't, no problem. Still, I'm where I am. And this is fine. This is acceptable. Okay, so let's do this. Start with this. And of course, it's going to be a little, different at first if you haven't done it before. And that's okay, right? Okay, we're here to learn new things. So go ahead and set up whatever posture you're used to. Getting comfortable in a meditation position. And if you haven't meditated before, that's okay. The only thing you have to be concerned about is that your back is straight and not ramrod like you have a stick, more like you're just sitting up comfortably. So we call it loosely straight. And then relax in the position. Allow your shoulders to drop and your breath to deepen and slow. Just removing the awareness from external world to the internal world. Just turning inward. And then we want to bring to mind a positive motivation. So why did you come to this class? What was your intention? Most likely it's because you were looking for happiness, not wanting to feel so bad all the time. Maybe wanting to bring that to others. Often when others suffer, we suffer. So getting in touch with that motivation that we're here to grow our happiness, to grow the happiness for others, to lead them, show them the way. As simple as that. Thinking I want to be a positive force in the world. And in order to do that, I'm going to learn about how, and I'm going to practice it. And then thinking about bringing to someone to mind who you already feel a sense of caring about. So it can be anyone, an animal, or a human being. So getting that person, that being clear in your mind, who you already love, you want to be happy, you care about deeply. Choose someone and bring them into your awareness as if they were present with you right now. And start to contact those feelings of love for them. It's not that you feel that all the time for this person, but in general, you know what it's like to feel love and caring for this person. And bring that to mind. Generate that feeling. And become aware of how it feels to contact that feeling of love in your body first. Do you notice it around your eyes or your mouth, in your chest, in your hands, in your stomach? Where do you feel that? What is it like? What's the experience of of caring deeply, of having that warm, open heart towards someone? And then start to encourage that feeling with words. May you be happy. May you have lasting happiness always. May you have joy in your life. May you always be supported and have everything that you need. May conditions go well for you. May you have strength and be able to cope easily. I care about you. You're important to me. And notice how that feeling expands, how it grows in your body and in your heart, until you're filled with these feelings of love for this other person, for this being. It sort of pours out of you. Again, without forcing. And again, with mindfulness, awareness. And then notice your experience. Notice if you hit a boundary. Notice if there's a withdrawal that happens, like, okay, that's enough. Watch for that. See if that's present. And it may not be with this person that we care about. Just notice that. Maybe you just continue to feel this love. Or maybe there's a moment of hesitancy. Whatever is present, with compassionate awareness, noticing. And if you'd like, you can go back to encouraging and expanding the feeling so that you stay present with it, making some of those statements. I care about you deeply. I want you to be happy. May you have everything. May you always experience joy. And relax into that feeling, that openness, that warmth. Becoming comfortable with the presence of your mind being filled with love. Like being in love with the world. Okay, and then coming out of that meditation, slowly, gently, okay, so now that we've talked a bit about this basis, which is that we, each one of us, have this basic connection to love and connection to compassion, that it is a part of who we are. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but when we start to look a little bit at, again, this sense of how we exist. So this is the wisdom aspect of Buddhism. What is the self? Who is this being that is doing this loving? What is their nature? What are they made up of, I suppose? How do we actually exist? This is very, Buddhist philosophy kind of aspect. When we look more closely at that, at our sense of existence, at our who we actually are, what we see is that we are connected to others, that we are not independent absolutely from others. And because of that connection to others, this feeling of love and this feeling of compassion, of wanting ourselves and everyone to be happy, is in line with who we actually are, of how we actually exist. Because these negative emotions of anger and separation and jealousy and hatred, and that these are actually based on ignorance. They're based on a lie of independence that somehow separates us from others. So understanding this connection, we can see that because it's in line with who we actually are, our sense of connectedness to others, therefore our love and our compassion can be grown infinitely. It can be expanded to include all the beings, because we are connected to all beings, because we don't exist within this separateness that we usually see and we usually experience and we usually believe. That is actually what Lama Zopa calls a hallucination. It's a lie. It's something that we've made up, this belief that we're separate from others. I've been studying a bit about racism because of all the protests that are happening in my country more, but in other countries as well. And this idea of that somehow, because I have white skin, that I am separate from someone who has black skin is just absurd. It's ridiculous, and it's a construct that was actually made up in order to exploit people. And so to have that view, to have that attitude that somehow I am separate from beings because of skin color is kind of ridiculous. It's a lie. It's a belief that is wrong. And so I need to challenge those. I need to look at those. So looking at taking it now from the basis of how we exist to the fruition or the fruit of where we want to go. So now in this one class, we're going to go from, the seeds of our love and our compassion to this experience of in love with the whole world. There's an amazing book that Mingyur Rinpoche also wrote called, In Love with the World. And his experience of going through dying. So he actually went through the death process at one point and almost came very, very close to dying. And in the process of discovering this oneness, this connection to all beings. And then the heart that opens. So what we call this in Buddhism, we call this bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, bodhi is enlightened and chitta is mind. So an enlightened mind has this love for the world, but it also has some other aspects to it. And this becomes what a bodhisattva, so a bodhisattva is someone who has this bodhicitta attitude. And it has lots of aspects, but it is the basis of it is this connection with all beings. And then we take it even further. We expand it, we grow it, and we become so connected to others that we don't want anybody to ever feel bad ever again. So it takes it to its greatest extent or its fullest potential. So this is bodhicitta. So what I'd like to do now is, so many of you have some experience or even more extensive experience learning about Buddhism. So you've heard of this concept of bodhicitta. So if you could go on your chat, and Felipe will open up the chat. So you have to select everybody so everybody can see your responses. And I'd like you to put, like, in a word or two, what bodhicitta means to you. Okay? So go ahead and type that in your chat. What does bodhicitta mean to you? Sending it out to everyone, not just to Felipe. Cherishing others. Self-awareness, love, acceptance, bliss of infinity. I like that one. Commitment to all, compassion, freedom from suffering, spreading positivity to others, self-compassion, awakening, peace, service, enlightened mind with compassion, unrestricted compassion, realizing the illusion of suffering, to wish everyone happiness, the wish to become enlightened and help others to become enlightened. Compassion for everyone, clear conscience, still developing, selfless, so many things. This is all great. Identification with true essence, omniscience, commitment to develop ourselves for others, detached attachment, perfection, humor, nice, mindfulness. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So you see that this bodhicitta is not one thing, and we have a technical definition and we'll talk about that, but its expression has so many other aspects. Wishing peace for everyone is another one. just how big this concept really is. So for me to even try to approach it in a class or even in 2 weeks is absurd. But it's something that, like I said, can grow infinitely and has so many aspects. So let's take a look at this. Comes from Rob Priest, who is another one of my teachers. His understanding of bodhicitta. So the first where we start with is with this warm heart. So this sense of I care, I have a capacity to be open to others. There's an expansiveness there, okay? It also recognizes that all beings have this potential for wholeness. So wholeness being this expression of their full development, which includes this expression of love and compassion. But it also includes things like wisdom, courage, peace, that all beings have this ability and this capacity, including mosquitoes. So sometimes when we're discouraged, traditional teachings, I think this came from Lama Zopa, he says, he's our spiritual director of the FPMT and Tushita here, Tushita Meditation Center, where I'm teaching from, our parent sort of company, the organization. Lama Zopa is our spiritual director, one of the people who really developed all these Dharma centers. He says, if a mosquito can do it, you can do it. So this recognition that all beings have this potential, and that to be discouraged and thinking that you're not capable of it is absurd, because everyone who has a mind, every being that is sentient has this potential for wholeness. And then there's this wish for others to have ultimate satisfaction, not just temporary, not just comfort, not just for, a little while, and then they go back to having suffering again, and then they have joy for a little while, and then they go back to have suffering. But this sense of ultimate, all the time experience happiness. And then our commitment to develop ourselves for others, understanding that the best way that we can experience this love all the time, to have this a non-judgmental compassion for all beings, to lead them, is that it has to come from us first. We have to figure it out ourselves, for ourselves and for others, in order to lead others. That we can't be all focused on others without also developing ourselves. Because if we're going to lead other beings to enlightenment, if we're going to show them how to have love, how to have this omniscience, this wisdom, if we're going to show others how to do it, we certainly better know how to do it ourselves. So there's a really good book that comes from the mindfulness-based stress reduction. So this is a scientific, one of the more powerful beginning early stages scientific application of mindfulness to stress reduction, to treatment of chronic illness, to things like depression. So the book has to do with the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for depression. And one of the things, so it's a textbook for psychologists, for psychotherapists, and it talks about the need for the therapist to have their own practice of mindfulness, that you have to be practicing yourself if you are going to show your clients, your patients, how to do it. And so this is also an aspect of bodhicitta. So the technical definition of bodhicitta is this. So first and foremost is the wish that all beings become enlightened. So along with this understanding of enlightenment is the sense that enlightenment brings joy. It brings ultimate satisfaction. It is without suffering. That is what enlightenment is. It has other aspects, but the basic is this: we want all beings to become enlightened, because if we are connected to them and we can't separate, we separate sort of, but at the same time we're connected, that if if we are connected to all beings, if this interconnection is true, then if other beings are suffering, we cannot be happy. Okay? We cannot have complete and full happiness if there are still beings who are suffering. So then we have this understanding that we want all beings to be free from the suffering, to have this ultimate joy. And then the wish that I become enlightened for them. So the second aspect is this wish to become enlightened for them is the way in which we are going to do the first part. So the first part is where the motivation, the aspiration. And the second part is how are we going to do it? I have to become enlightened in order to bring all beings to enlightenment. The best way that I can do this is by becoming enlightened myself. Okay. So some more technical definitions. We can talk about two types of bodhicitta. So this comes from, if you ever study in the monasteries or in a more formal program, you will see that they make a distinction between two types of bodhicitta. One is the conventional, also known as the relative bodhicitta. And this is the one that I'm mostly talking about when we're talking about developing love, developing compassion for others. We're talking on a conventional or a relative level where we all exist as different beings. Okay, so in order for me to have conventional bodhicitta, there has to be a me that is becoming enlightened, and there have to be others who I am leading to enlightenment. And this has two aspects. It's got an aspiring, so the wish, I have a longing, I have a wish to bring others to enlightenment. And then there's an engaging aspect. And the engaging aspect is, what am I going to do? It's actually doing the practices that will fulfill my wish. Okay? So the doing of the practices, things like practicing the path, sitting down and meditating, doing the studying, practicing generosity, practicing kindness, walking around, thinking about others, thinking about loving others. This is the actual engagement of the bodhicitta, okay? And then the ultimate bodhicitta is more about this view. It's this view of interconnectedness and this view of a self. So now the boundaries between the self and others within the view start to disappear. And this interconnectedness starts to see the oneness of all beings, the lack of separateness, the lack of distinction between ourselves and others. And this becomes the view. And when we have this view, first we have it on a conceptual level. So we have an understanding that interdependence is the way things are. And then we have a direct experience of the fact that we are all connected, that we are all have the same nature in our essence. Our essence is the same nature. So this is when we start talking about this concept of emptiness. So if you've studied Buddhism in this Mahayana tradition or in this Tibetan tradition before, you know this concept of emptiness. Or in the Theravada, they have an aspect of it called selflessness. So of course, within the view, you're not going to have a self that is somehow separate from others. But on a conventional level, in order to act, in order to be of benefit to others, we have to recognize the relative differences. Okay, so we have this balance between this conventional acting in the world in order to benefit others, and we have this view of the ultimate, this selflessness view. Okay, but we have to start. So let me take a moment. So that's sort of technical stuff. And of course, very short introduction. You can go much deeper into these concepts in your studies of bodhicitta. So now back to this engaging bodhicitta on this relative level. One of the things that they have found in the research, when they've been doing research, so they've started to practice teaching people compassion, teaching people how to, develop this love, and even on a secular level. So not necessarily related to the Buddhist religion, but just simply without a religious context. How do we teach people to be more compassionate, to be more loving? And there's one man, he's a student and translator for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His name is Thupten Jinpa, and he wrote an amazing book based on some of these trainings. He developed a training called Cultivating Compassion. I think it's Compassionate Care Training. I think it's CCT, Compassionate Care Training. And he implemented this program with lots of different groups of people, with prisoners, with nurses, social workers, teachers, businessmen, and collected data in the process of this, training people to be more compassionate. And one of the things that he learned in this process is that for many of us modern people who are in this more competitive society, in this more materialistic education, very scientific education, in this culture that is very much based on how external things bring us happiness, that for us who have this sense of independence, of being us against the world sort of attitude, that we have to first develop a sense of self-compassion, of learning how to love and be compassionate toward ourselves in order to love others, in order to be compassionate with others. That we have to first learn how to turn the lens on me, again on this relative level of me, and then I can start to be more compassionate to others. Another thing that the research shows is that many people develop compassion for others first, but leave out themselves. That somehow we get this message along the way that in order to be loving toward others, we have to not give love to ourselves, that we have to deny ourselves, that somehow it's okay to even be kind of mean to ourselves, that that's okay, and then we can still be loving and compassionate to others. But from a Buddhist point of view, we're sentient beings too. And to leave ourselves out doesn't make any sense. And when we start talking about this development of bodhicitta, we need to know how to love ourselves in order to really be fully loving toward others. And so I had one student who talked about the best way for him to develop compassion and love for others was first to fill his own cup. So if I fill my cup with love and compassion for myself, then it's easier. It spreads to others. It overflows to others more easily. Sometimes when we get this message of it's selfish for me to take care of myself, and that I have to give everything away to others. I give my time, I give my energy, I give my attention to others, and I don't focus on myself. I'm kind to others, but I'm mean to myself. That somehow, where was I going with that? Oh, that's the way we're supposed to be. That's how we've been socialized. That's how we've been rewarded. That if I am loving toward others, somehow others will love me, instead of learning to give love to ourselves. Okay, so this concept of self-compassion, there's an author, a researcher, psychologist, her name is Kristen Neff, and again, these resources are in your resource page, and she wrote a whole book on her research on self-compassion. She also has a TED Talk that's really good that talks about this concept of self-compassion. So let's look at a definition of this. and a little bit about this self-compassion. And then we'll go to the discussion. So the definition of self-compassion is when we suffer, so when we're vulnerable, when we're going through a hard time, caring for ourselves as we would care for someone we truly love. So we've already started with this person that we love, that we care about, imagining them and growing that love. So if that person were going through a hard time, if they made a mistake, if they failed in some way, if something really bad happened to them, how would we treat them? How would we care for them? Would we blame them? Would we tell them to get over it very quickly? Would we push them away and ignore their feelings of difficulty? Would we just say, oh, get over it, you know, get on with your life? Is that how we would treat someone that we truly love? No, we wouldn't. We would be kind to them. We would be understanding. We would take care with them. We would spend time with them. We would encourage them and be positive toward them in order so they can heal from their difficult experience. But do we do that for ourselves? This is what self-compassion is really about, is learning to treat ourselves with this kindness. To take it, you know, we take someone out, you know, have a nice meal with them, say nice things to them, show them that we love them, you know, maybe give them a gift because they're going through a hard time. But do we do that with ourselves? This is the question. And so self-compassion is about learning to do that for ourselves so that we can be strong, so that we can become bodhisattvas. Okay, so three different aspects of this self-compassion. Self-kindness versus self-judgment. So what kinds of self-talk? How do we talk to ourselves when we're going through this difficult time? The second one is common humanity versus isolation. So recognizing everybody suffers. Life is like a stock market. We have good things, it goes up. We have bad things, it goes down. For many of us right now, this global situation, this pandemic that we're going through is very difficult. It's hard to be away from our friends. It's hard to change our lives, to no longer to be able to go out and get haircuts and massages and go out for restaurants and, you know, go to our temples and our, you know, our churches and our Dharma centers. We're cut off from that. No funerals, no weddings. This is difficult. We're social beings. Everyone is going through this. All of us are connected to all the beings who are going through this difficult time. We are not alone in this suffering. And so this connection, remembering this connection to our humanity, actually is an act of self-compassion. It's a way of seeing that we aren't alone. We are not alone. This connected presence. And then this mindfulness versus over-identification is this sense that we have where we start feeling like our suffering is us. I am my depression. I am my loneliness. I am my anger. I am my separation. And that's ridiculous, okay? We are so many things. We are so many different experiences. We are experiences of joy. We are experiences of sadness. We don't have to take, you know, what we often do is we take one experience, like our traumatic, you know, experience we had in childhood, or we take some failure that we had in our lives and we make it me. And we say, we over-identify with our experience of failure or with our experience of being unloved or being rejected in a relationship. And we say, I am a bad person. I am a worthless person. I am an unlovable person because of this one experience that I had in my life, or even because of this one aspect of my life. And we don't recognize that if I really were present with who I am, I have ups, I have downs. I have love, I have anger, I have hatred. I have all these experiences. And so I am not just one thing. I am not just this one bad thing. Okay? I'm lots and lots of stuff. And I have this potential to become more love, to become more happiness, to become more joy. And mindfulness leads us to this understanding. Over identification sticks us. It's, we get stuck to one view of who I am. Okay. All right. So then for the discussion groups, what I'd like you to do, the question is, how do we balance self-compassion with acts of serving others, of being of benefit to others? So we're going to take 10 minutes, and Felipe's going to put you into groups of about 5 people. So maybe 25 groups, I think, as people leave the meeting. We're still, I think 25 will be good. Do this discussion, for about 10 minutes, connect with others about this. First, introduce yourself, tell people where you're from, and then talk a little bit how you do this balance, or some ideas. If you haven't done it yet, just some ideas of how you think you could do this balance. Okay, go ahead, Felipe.
All right, I'm gonna start the groups in a moment, so give me 1 second. Okay, here we go.
Thanks. All right, welcome back, everyone. So I have to let you know that I have this habit of talking so much that we go over in time. So just be aware that even though it says an hour and a half, often it is an hour and 45 minutes or even 2 hours. So I do my best to try to limit it, but I often go over. So if you have to leave, we totally understand. You can look at the recordings to do the meditation, but I don't want to cut short any of the parts because, so anyway, just be aware of that. It may be more like 2 hours instead of just 90 minutes. Okay, so if you have questions now, you can either raise your hand or type them in the chat and we'll do some talking, some questions.
We have Kathy raising her hand. Please go ahead, Kathy. I'm gonna mute you.
Good morning, Venerable. Good morning, Felipe. Or good evening for you guys.
Hi.
What is the best way to catch yourself? Because I am just unmerciful towards myself. We were just talking about, it seemed everybody in our group kind of had that problem. I mean, I am just, I get that negative self-talk going, and then I think it feeds on itself, and then I get more irritable with other people, and then I get more down on myself, but I can't seem to catch myself at the beginning of it. How can you catch yourself at the beginning so you don't go down the whole rabbit trail?
Yeah. So often the way we start to change our behavior and our thinking is that we do have to catch it later, because so retrospectively we recognize that, oh, I was just thinking that. And recognizing it, then once we see that we had already gone down the rabbit hole, as you say, then we apply the antidotes. So we start to develop positive affirmations, right, toward ourselves. And we can do this with lists. We can do it with gratitude. We can do it with positive statements. You know, all your positive qualities you write down. And slowly, it starts to decrease the amount of time that we are lost in the negativity. So what happens is by building up the strength. So a quote from Mingyur Rinpoche is that we don't have to get rid of the clouds. What we do have to do is recognize the sky. So, and it's also in modern psychology, they're working from a strengths approach, which is where we build up our strengths. So we build up our positivity, recognizing our positivity, and then the negativity, it's not that we repress it and we push it away. We just it fades, because immediately what pops into our mind is the positive thing. It just the more that we work with it, that we encourage it on a conscious level, the more that when the negativity comes, the positivity will already, the habit of the mind to be positive will be strengthened. So the negativity will stop. So it isn't necessarily a matter of I recognize it and I push it away. It's more of I build up the positivity, and the negativity doesn't appear as much. His point is always don't think about pizza. Don't think about pizza. Don't think about pizza. About pizza. We're thinking about pizza. It's like the mind doesn't work that way, where you don't be negative. Don't be negative. Don't be negative. We're going to be negative, right? So it's more this, doing the exercises, doing the meditations, practicing the positivity will eventually crowd that negativity out, and there won't be place for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice
To see you again.
Up next, we have Azur.
Hi. My question is, are there any, just off the top of your head, short affirmations we could use, starting right away, that we could use to, if we're starting to have negative talk, or the ruminations, the rabbit hole? Are there any short phrases that are key phrases everybody uses that I could write down?
I am lovable.
Uh-huh.
I am worthy of love. I am precious. I care about myself. I am important.
Mm-hmm. What about for more if we just feel scared in the world in general, it's not so much ourselves, but the trust and everything, it's not so much I'm not lovable, but that I can't manage this situation. I can't navigate the world in COVID. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. It's more I want to say I trust the world or something. I don't know.
Or I trust my ability to deal with whatever happens.
Okay, that's really good. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you can remember times in the past when you've dealt with uncertainty, when you've dealt with fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've done it before, you can do it again. And you have the capacity. You have the Buddha nature.
I trust my ability to deal with whatever comes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, so now this one's tricky because I got a question through the chat from somebody who's labeled as iPhone, but I have 3 people labeled as iPhone, so I don't know who to unmute. I'll perhaps read the question: how to treat a broken one from live? Somebody who's been broken, I guess. I can maybe unmute all 3, and whoever asks the question.
Okay. So iPhone,
whichever
you asked a question about, I didn't hear the question. What was it?
How to treat a broken one from life.
A broken one from life?
Yeah, I don't quite get it. That's why I want to mute as well, but let me see.
Okay. So
Or-
go ahead and speak up if it's your question.
It's weird because I can't even unmute anyone with the iPhone label.
Sometimes connections.
Yeah, it might be that. Should we move on to another one then?
Yes, and then if you want to chat or change your name so we know who you are.
Yeah, that would be much easier. Please.
Okay.
So let's go to Shiva then. Let me unmute you.
Hi, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, you just muted.
Hi.
Yes.
So my question was about seeking validation. In a way, seeking validation from the world about uh, who I am as a person. Is that a form of self-compassion? Do you have anything to say about wanting validation, and if it's a healthy practice? Because that would make you feel better, and still it's not considered to be such a healthy practice.
Right. Because it's unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not consistent necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can use the validation that you have experienced in the past to develop it within yourself. So if people have told you in the past that you are lovable and have been kind to you and seen your competence and those kinds of things, if you have had those experiences with validation with others in the past, you can use that to develop your own sense of validation, your own sense of feeling okay in the world, because those are accurate examples. People have given you that feedback and you can connect to that, but you can't rely on it all the time in the future because it's not necessarily going to come. So you do eventually have to develop it within yourself in order for it to stay consistent and be that source of strength for you in the world, because you aren't always going to receive that.
Mm-hmm. Like recalling what you've felt before about being validated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and recognizing that when someone told you you were doing well, you recognize you did well also in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can say, okay, that's a part of me. That's who I am. I have competence. I am this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like the evidence that you use to build up within yourself your sense of love, love and self-worth and that sort of thing.
Right. Makes a lot of sense, Venerable. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Do you want to do another one, Drolma?
Yeah, one more, and then we'll go to meditation.
Yes. So we'll go to Drishti.
Namaste.
Namaste.
This is Drishti from India, and I'm a psychotherapist, counselor. Ma'am, so thing is that I have always been a giver and provider to many people.
Drishti, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I got that she's a therapist.
Yep.
So, but there's this feeling where I am being for not being the same anymore.
Drishti, we're losing you. I think your connection is a bit slow. If you would like to type your question in the chat, that would be helpful, perhaps.
Are you able to hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you turn off your video?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Yeah, it's better now. Try again.
So I just want to know that when I'm more self-compassionate now, I feel that some of my family members have gotten aloof. They think that I've started thinking about myself because their mind has been conditioned to see me as a provider all the time, you know. And even though I still do everything for them, but it's now I've started taking care of me more. So how do sometimes I go back to that feeling of feeling guilty? I come back, I practice self-compassion, right? But when I go back to that feeling, it's not good. I don't want to feel guilty about that. How do I get rid of this? How do
Yeah.
I get rid of this guilt?
So, two things. One is that whenever we change our behavior, the people in the systems, so the system, you know, of our family, when they're used to us being a certain way, they're going to resist. Okay. It's just natural, right? They're going to resist the change. Anytime change happens within any system, there's resistance. So then the second aspect is that the reason why you are being more self-compassionate is so that you can be stronger to be able to benefit others, not just your family, but also your clients, you know, within your practice, you know, in the world. That if you didn't practice self-compassion, if you totally were selfless with, you know, giving to others without taking care of yourself, you would not last. You would not be able to benefit so many people, including your family. And so explaining that to them, if they're open to it, and also remembering for yourself that the reason why you're taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's so that you can be of benefit to others in a stronger, more clear, more in a better way. So feeling guilty about it doesn't make any sense. Guilty would be because you're being a bad person and you're taking something from others, but you're not. You're actually making yourself stronger so that you can be better for others. And so then the guilt doesn't have a place, right? Because your intention, your motivation is to benefit others, but you know that in order to benefit others, you have to take care of yourself.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so let's go to meditation. Thank you for your questions.
Wonderful. So everyone, please set up your posture again. Make sure you're nice and comfortable in your body, stable and grounded as much as possible. And we're gonna jump right into the practice. Start by allowing the awareness to descend into the space of the body. Bringing in a sense of relaxation. We prepare the body by letting go of all tension and all tightness. Simply relaxing, being still and motionless, and maintaining vigilance is simply adopting a posture which is conducive with your back loosely straight. Allow that tension in the body to dissolve and just release it. relaxing as much as you can, setting the body at ease, giving rise to a sense of calmness and serenity. And now just taking a moment to experience that calm, just being present with the body as it is, relaxed, still, and yet alert and vigilant. And now gently place your attention upon the natural rising and falling of the breath. And in this process, allow a particular attention to come to the quality of the out-breath as relaxing, releasing, settling breath. This will enable you to gradually settle your awareness more deeply into the body and increase a sense of spaciousness and ease. Continuing with this relaxing, releasing breath awareness, and paying particular attention to this felt sense of becoming more open, more spacious with each breath. Let the out-breath be a quality of ease in yourself as you settle into and make friends with yourself. And then you can gently introduce into this quiet awareness an ocean of acceptance and compassion. This can be done simply by introducing the word acceptance without disturbing the mind's quiet clarity, as if this word were a fish that swims through water without disturbing it. Continue with the breath and try to maintain a sense that whatever attributes and failings you may have, all of this is deeply acceptable. If this enables a more soft sense of ease in being present with yourself, then remain with that feeling and allow it to penetrate deeply. Acceptance is the beginning of allowing ourselves to be as we are. If negative feelings or thoughts about yourself arise, try to just let them be without contracting into them. Instead, let the out-breath enable a kind of letting go, continuing with the process of releasing and opening with the breath and a sense of acceptance. And now, if you have your eyes partially open, you can gently close your eyes. And we'll go into a visualization. So imagine yourself in a place that is safe and comfortable as possible. It might be a cozy room with a fireplace or a peaceful beach with a warm sun and a cool breeze, or a forest glade. It could also be an imaginary place, like a floating on clouds, anywhere you feel reasonable, peaceful, and safe. And let yourself enjoy that space, being present there. Soon you'll receive a visitor, a warm and compassionate presence, a compassionate friend who embodies the qualities of wisdom, strength, and unconditional love. This being may be a spiritual figure, a wise, compassionate teacher, or a person from your past like a grandparent. He or she may even have no particular form. Perhaps this being is more like a light or a warm presence. Your compassionate friend cares deeply about you and would like you to be happy and free of unnecessary struggle. So allow a being to come to mind. And you have a choice as your compassionate friend arrives to go out from your safe place and meet them, or to invite him or her in. Whatever you choose, you place yourself just in the right way in relation to your compassionate friend, whatever feels right. And taking a moment to imagine your compassionate friend in as much detail as possible, especially allowing yourself to feel what's it like to be in his or her presence. There's nothing you need to do except to experience the moment. And your compassionate friend is wise and all-knowing and knows exactly where you are in your life journey. And if you're open to it, your friend might want to tell you something. Something that is just what you need to hear right now. So take a moment and listen carefully to what your compassionate friend might have to say. But even if no words come, that's okay too. Simply continue to experience the good company. That in itself is a blessing. And now simply taking a moment to enjoy your friend's presence. And as you continue to do that, allow yourself to realize that your friend is actually a part of yourself. All the compassionate feelings, images, and words that you experience flow from your own inner wisdom and compassion. And finally, gently allowing the images to gradually dissolve in your mind's eye, remembering that compassion and wisdom are always within you, especially when you need them the most. You can call on your compassionate friend at any time you wish. And settle back into your body. Let yourself savor what just happened, perhaps reflecting on the words that you might have heard or the experience that you felt. Finally, letting go even of the meditation, and allow yourself to just be present with whatever you're feeling or experiencing without doing. For a moment, just be. And gently coming out of the meditation. And now we go into the final aspect of our practice, which is the dedication. And for this, we will be reading from a prayer from Master Shantideva, who is a 8th century Indian Buddhist master. And keep in mind to simply acknowledge that with the meditation and the teaching that we've had, we've created some good energy, some positive potential, and that we can share that with others and wish others to be happy and free of suffering. So you can follow along and read together as we dedicate. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefit in each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for coming and participating. And we'll do it again tomorrow. So come back and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.